All right. Good morning, everybody. We got recording going. I'm making sure my audio works for myself. You guys can hear me okay? Because my audio is like not being a good friend of mine. I'll just put it that way. My ears here decided to like have a nuclear meltdown, and I don't know what's going on with that. But glad to see everybody. Hi, Patty. Good morning. We got Rena and Jackie and Glory and Wanda and like a bunch of other people. And if I missed you, I'm sorry. I can see like I see so many, and then they like start piling in. But we are going to talk about, some of the reasons why, um, the ads, Facebook ads or any ads are really the first step that anybody is going to take in the process of, you know, getting to know you and why ads by themselves, they don't work and why people who rely thinking that ads are going to be the only thing are disappointed with ads results. Because I hear a lot of times from people, I tried ads in the past and they didn't work for me, and I think to myself, well, we see all these advertisers that are on Facebook, Instagram, Google, everywhere, the audience network and all that stuff, and they pour in millions of dollars for years. I'm sure that they know that their stuff works because they track everything. That's the one thing that's really cool about the internet is that we can track everything. Like the moment somebody clicks on an ad all the way to the purchase and their journey everywhere in between, we can track all of that. And they know what works, they know what doesn't. If you're running like in the old days, like Facebook ads, not Facebook, TV ads or radio ads, we really couldn't track super well unless you had specific links, like you were using one phone number for one particular ad on one particular radio station. Then you knew. And some people actually did that, but the main thing is that people, with the internet, we can track everything and we know where people are coming from. But not, going into the ads manager and then just throwing up an ad and putting in $50 and not getting quote sales or enrollments or whatever you're looking to get. There's a huge part of this that makes it work. And ads are a small piece of it. I think ads are the one of the least significant parts. The ads will kind of pique people's interest, start to get them to know you. People are like, ooh, I like her or him or whatever, and they start to like get to know you, or they opt in and they start to follow your stuff on the different channels. But really the ad is not even like the first date. It's like, it's like seeing somebody's profile on a dating app. I mean, that's kind of how it is. And you don't just look at somebody's information on a dating app and be like, oh, I'm going to marry that person and here we go. Like there's a process, right? And that's where people get stuck. And truly, I've been growing my own businesses since 2001, and actually longer than that, but truly like this kind of business, since 2001. And I built offline very, very fast and very well and created a very nice business by building it the old way, creating a business with, live events, vendor events, in-home gatherings, chamber of commerce, you name it, we did all of that. But then when the internet came along, it was like, wow, there's this newfangled thing called the internet, and there's got to be a way to make money on here. And I was all in on learning how to do it. But this was the biggest mistake that I made was I was thinking that I was going to get on the internet and just show people my stuff and they were going to buy. And I could get people opting into my stuff, but I couldn't get them to buy my stuff. And I'm going to talk about um, a seven touch nurture system that I used for many years, and I teach it to my clients as well, so that you can, what I call, maximize the surface area of the prospect. Um, because one pass is a very expensive way to acquire a prospect and one and done a sale, or not even that. And almost everybody's missing this. I go onto Facebook myself and I see a bazillion advertisers, even to me, because I talk about Facebook ads and they pick it up and they know. And they're just like, here, I'll teach you ads, or you can use this AI tool, it'll write your ads, or let's do done for you ads, or I see it like every day, and I'm like, well, the problem is that's great. But the ad itself is not the whole thing. And all these people, they go out there. I had somebody message me saying that they they were going to come and talk to us on the calendar, and they messaged us to cancel because they were going to go use this like AI software. And I'm like, you are so wrong on that. Maybe you'll be back, because it doesn't work like that. It's actually a system that makes this work. It's not an ad. It's not one video. It's not one magical email on this whole thing. And that's the mistake that I made, that made me be stuck for like 8 years trying to figure, or 7 years to figure this out. And I lost like over $1 million of income because of what I'm going to share with you that I didn't have. And I know that for a fact. And, we learn, I forgot the name of the software that she was going to use, but I just like, oh, well, have fun with that. I'm like, good luck. If you think that a $40 or $20 software is going to make your ad successful, I'm sorry to tell you it's not. Because you need a system. You need a system, you need a plan, you need all of that. And when I figured that out, we started getting much greater results in the responses, almost like uncanny results. But the problem is today, and I'm going to have to do a Facebook update here in the near future, because what we're seeing is lately there are more. I can't even begin to tell you. There's so much happening even in the ads manager. Like, they made some major updates in the last couple weeks. Really, really huge updates. And so not everybody is seeing the updates yet. Usually with Facebook, um, the updates start to roll out to certain people first, and then like if it's well received or the feedback comes, then that's good, then they'll roll it out to more and more people. But there are a lot of things happening back there, and what's happening is that Facebook is trying to make it where ads are almost automatic in a way, where somebody doesn't really even need to be an advanced person to do them. The problem is they're really wrong on that. There's, I want to say, there's, like I was saying, there's more to the ad than just the ad, and if people are missing that, Facebook could automatically write your stuff to perfection and launch it and show it to the perfect people and everything. And if you don't have a nurture system, your ads aren't going to do anything, even if they're the perfect ads. And that's where Facebook is falling short on that thinking. But the problem is they want people to think that we're going to have this advantage plus, and we're going to have dynamic creatives and all these things. And the it really is not even it's not even doing what they want it to do necessarily. So I think even more now than ever, people need to have a system, and they need to have the knowledge, because going at it alone and not having that is far more expensive than learning how to do it the right way. I could tell you that hands down. I mean, back I started running ads in like maybe 15 years ago, right when Facebook started, about 2010, 2011, I started running ads. And just in ad spend alone, I almost blew through like $6,000 just of ad spend. I didn't get any results because I didn't have the system like I'm going to show you today. And then I also invested into a lot of quote coaching, like $20,000 of coaching that didn't work. And because back then in the Wild West of Facebook land, I thought like, ooh, 2010, we've been on Facebook a long time. It had barely been really going, and not everybody's grandma was on here yet. But we would chase the rainbow and a person would have mild success and now they called themselves a guru and you're chasing people trying to figure this out, and the people that were really doing it, they were innovating so fast, most of them weren't even coaches. So it was really interesting, like the people that really put themselves out there as massive gurus were not the ones that were really teaching the right stuff. It was the people that worked for them. Those were the ones that held all the secrets. So, going on through that and learning, and then, when I got some strategic mentorship about 10 years ago, is when I was able to get that because I was able to pull it all together. And then I was able to create my own system, especially that worked for direct sales, network marketing, things like that, because it's a little bit different because a lot of what you find that was instruction was all for like e-commerce, affiliate marketing, coaches, things like that. And that wasn't exactly a fit for what I wanted to do. And I had to experiment and test and do all that. And now what I am going to show you is really the shortcut to doing that. That took a lot of time to figure out. And it's what I teach my clients in depth because, you need a system. The ad is not the thing. People think they need to learn the magic words of the ad. If I just had the right ad, I would make a lot of money. And it's like, no, not really. You might starting to attract the attention of the right prospect, but you could have, like I said, if you've got the right ad that's perfect with the right offer, but your system is wrong, you won't make money. You won't have those profits. So that's a little bit of the background of this whole thing of where I've come from, from the, uh, it's wildly successful offline and then going to the internet thinking it was going to be a slam dunk. And then it wound up being a very frustrating 7 years of trying. I even walked away. It was like I started with the internet quote stuff. Uh, I was on Facebook in 2007 and I started trying to figure it out. And then I had a blog and I had all that stuff. And then we did, what was it? I started the baby ads in like 2010, 11-ish. Totally didn't get it to work. I blew up a Facebook page to like 13,000 people really fast, but I didn't understand like this stuff that I was going to show you. And I got so frustrated, I walked away because that was the days like you wanted as many likes as possible, and my list had a lot of people on it, but I couldn't convert it. And then I walked away, but then I came back thinking I really need to crack this. And that's when I invested in strategic coaching and was able to get it. I was within an inch of cracking it, but I had all the pieces in front of me. I just did not have the right system. So anyways, I'm going to show you any questions on that before I get into that whole thing. I'm curious, who here has run ads and uh, not had the results that they want from the ads? I guess that's even the question because I see it every day when I read um, applications of people that are looking to talk to us. I see it all the time, and I'm curious here who's, drop in the chat if you've had Facebook experience or Google experience, and you may have gotten some clicking or results or something like that, but you didn't have any profits with that. Yeah. There you go. Yep. Cool. And that's the thing, I find that a lot of people get great leads, having hard times closing. So here's the thing as well. There's three master skills to running ads. So there's the system that you need to follow. And I find that most people are not doing enough work after the person is responding to the ad. So they're not throwing in enough follow through, follow up, and all of that. But what I do know this, kind of my gauge of follow up, because everybody, you got to remember this: when somebody responds to your ad, and all of you can attest to this, probably yourself, when you respond to an ad and you click on something, doesn't like a whole slew of stuff just like it starts showing up in your feed? All of a sudden now you have like, you clicked on a probiotic, and all of a sudden now there's like 40 probiotics in your feed. And the same thing is happening to your prospect. We actually call that the Facebook wheel of doom. Because all of a sudden Facebook's like, oh, Stephanie clicked on the probiotic ad. She must want a probiotic. So we're going to help Stephanie, and we're going to help the advertisers and put all these ads in front of Stephanie about probiotic. Here's the deal. Most people fall short of doing the nurturing and the follow up and the follow through that Stephanie may never buy, because it's like that she sees the ad, she goes, oh yeah, yeah, or you talked about it, right, Dolores? Yeah, Facebook is listening. And if you have, somebody that clicks through and you have the best intentions and you're like, hey, I want to learn about this probiotic. How many people have tabs open on their phone, or things they saved for themselves, or their computer has tabs? You may even have emailed yourself ads that you meant to go back and you really wanted, but you never got. How many of us are like shaming like this? So this is why holy tabs. Yes. I've made myself a new promise, you guys, where every night I used to have like 50 tabs across the top of my computer. I'm not kidding. I've made myself a promise every night to shut down my computer completely and close the browser, which is like, oh my God, I haven't done that in like years. The main reason is this computer is a gaming computer, and so much static electricity stores in the motherboard and on the keyboard that if I don't do that, the computer is whacked out in like 3 days. But it's actually a really healthy thing to do. So, but my whole point in saying this is that your prospects are doing the same thing. They're seeing an ad and they're like, oh, here's this cool thing on my Facebook, because it is listening and it's tracking you. And I'm looking at this thing, this guy here, wow, he's cool. I'm going to save this, or I'm going to send it to my friend. How do you do that? I'm going to send it to my friend, or you even send it to yourself, even through the messenger, and you just never get it. And that's the same thing as your prospects. So remember that, because the next thing I'm going to tell you is something that often makes people uncomfortable, that you have to follow up with your prospects to the point of where you feel uncomfortable with the amount of follow-up you're doing. If you can remember all of your prospects' names, you do not have enough of them. And if you are not doing enough follow-up to the point of where you're feeling uncomfortable, you're not doing enough. Because like even for this meeting that I do here, I do 2 emails, 1 engagement ad, I post in Skool, and I send a text on something that's every Wednesday that is free training. This is free training to the public, right? This is not what I teach to my clients. So even free training, I have to go all out in order to get people to come. And I could do more. I could tell you, I could totally do more. I just don't have the time to do that. I've got like all this other stuff I'm working on. But when it comes to the prospects, emailing every day, sometimes 2 and 3 times a day, texting at least once a week through the text, right? And there's, retargeting ads. How many times do you see an ad, you click on it, and then you start seeing other ads from that individual? They're retargeting you to stay in front of you. The other thing is inviting people to events, and always be inviting them to the next thing. That's one thing we always said in network marketing is always be inviting. Always be inviting. Every week, you should have at least one event to be inviting your prospects to. Be like, hey, Letitia, we got this, presentation tonight. What day is today? Today's Wednesday. And that means John Jones is going to be on tonight. And I'm going to tell you, John has not been on this presentation for people to learn about the business like, you want to learn. He hasn't done it in like 6 months. So a chance to learn from John and hear his story about how he was able to create a 6-figure income in 6 months, quit his job, and now he's a multi 7-figure earner. He started out just like you. He was a school teacher just like you. And I've got like 3 spots open tonight that I can invite somebody. Would you like to come and hear John and how he did that? I mean, you've got to do that like multiple times a week because people are like, yeah, yeah. Like, Letitia might be like, yeah, I totally want to come. And then she's like, squirrel, you know. And it's like, it's just because we're so inundated with everything these days. We're so inundated and we've got like media coming at us and life is, like we have to cut through the noise with our prospects. And that's really what we are, what we're like up against. So, whew. But I'm telling you the sauce, you guys. I'm telling you the secret sauce of what goes on behind the scenes on these ads. Because the ad, like I said, is just the first step. So let me show you this, kind of like, it's not the prettiest diagram in the world. I do need to make it better. I will share this with you, but I'm kind of like not the graphic designer person. But I'm going to show you like my journey of what I bring people through and what I show people. Hold on a second. I'm just making sure I'm going to change my view here. Oops, that's a grid view. All right. Gonna make that minimized. There we go. No offense to anybody. I do want to see you. However, it blocks the screen. So I gotta grab my little handy dandy note deal marker. So this is the map in which we have to follow in order to nurture 7 touches. Okay. Now there's even more than that, but I counted 7 on standard. Okay. So we have, the ad, right, itself, where that's like the first touch. They see you, they like read it, or they watch a video or whatever picture you've got with graphics on it or something. We are in a, in the sea of other ads that are like you. But that's the first thing right here is the ad. The second touch is the email follow-ups. And again, these have to be written in a way that are not selling the product. They're not pimping what you got. We want that prospect to, really get to know you and know that you can help them solve their problems. So that's that. You also have the Facebook Messenger, which is very similar to text. Oops, text. So there's some texting that needs to go out, in a specific time format, asking specific questions to get the prospect to reach back. Most people we talk to, the first place is here, the second place is here, and the third place is actually on the ads themselves. Oops, I meant to write third is it's not the email. The email is like the catch-all, like it's kind of like the hammock, right? That just kind of like catches everything. So I would say email is four. And then we have the presentations that we send people to. This is five. Now, retargeting ads are part of this whole thing, which is six. And then here we have a meeting typically on the phone or a Zoom, which is this, which is seven. Okay. Now, social proofing, it depends on what market you're in. If you're like a coach or you're a realtor or whatever your business is, this may look a little different. It could be testimonials, it could be, um, you know, sometimes a Facebook group. Mine, like right now, I'm using Skool for this particular part, which I'll put as eight. Like I said, there's actually more than seven, but every business, I only put seven when I talked about this because truly there's for sure seven, but every business, some businesses, have more than that, which could be like I'm using Skool for that because Facebook groups are really hard to get stuff seen on. And I wish Facebook would work on that. They're too busy like changing up the ads manager and confusing the shit out of people. They need to focus their energy and time on making groups better because people are leaving Facebook in the droves and the not using the uh not hold on, I got somebody coming in here. They're not using the groups anymore. We're having that as well. So just that's what this is. We also have phone calls, which you know, I used to have this as like an optional one. So I'm gonna do eight. But phone calls are, here's the deal. In a sea of sameness, be different. And most people, you can use voice drops, Deborah, as well. When you first start, your list and your lead flow might not be a lot. But then as your lead flow really gets huge, you might want to do voice drops. However, what happens is, in a sea of everybody wanting to hide behind their texter, how do you stand out? Picking up the phone or even sending a piece of mail. You could have people opt into your ads and send them a piece of mail. That would be like, whoa, people, everybody's trying to do this marketing on a shoestring. Like people want to run their ads and not have the money in the advertising. Here's the thing, when I started my business in 2001, I knew I needed to run ads, and the way I chose was to buy vendor tables. And I was spending $3,000 a month back 25 years ago almost doing that. It doesn't, it was a network marketing business. So even network marketers, honestly, to really get a good hold, even on Facebook, you need minimally, I think, we start testing ads at $5 to $10 a day. But to really gain momentum, you need to be at 25 to 50 a day and then get to 100 a day as soon as possible, which is 3,000 a month. But that's in the scheme of advertising, that is nothing. Truly. Like a small advertiser on Facebook is somebody spending $1,000. Because if you were to go now to your local newspaper and run an ad, which is not what people are really reading anymore. I looked before I left Minnesota. It was about 2020-ish, 2019. And to run an ad in a local newspaper, which of course they listed you online as well, for 7 days was $480 for like a week, 7 days. So if you ran your ad in this nobody's reading newspaper every week, it's 2 grand a month or $2,800 a month. And that's just one little tiny ad. So, when people would do media buying, like really big, campaigns, they were spending, I know a story that I often will tell is my upline, in the company that I built. They spent 50 grand. They all pulled together, a whole team of people pulled together, and each one of them um, put in $50,000, 50 together each for 6 months of ads. And you guys, this was in 1994. 1994, they all put in 50 grand. So that'd be like all 18 of us here, like going, we're going to do this. We're going to go flood the market with Facebook ads, or, we're going to do massive Google buying. And we're all going to put in 50 grand on the table with no guarantee that you're going to succeed. And they did that. And there's no guarantee when you run anything or you run a business. There's no guarantee with a business. If you want a guarantee, go get a job, but still it's even a false guarantee. So they also too, back in that time, the advertising was so much less sophisticated because look at all these ways that we have to. Back in the day, it was you had an ad here and then it went right to phone call. That was it. And you could call your prospect and your prospect could call you. This is your ad. It's like, yay, or we would do the mail. I did a lot of mailing in my day. Let me tell you, I spent a lot of time in the Home Depot, at the Office Depot, spent thousands of dollars a year on printing materials to hand out. And then you're praying to God they're going to call you back. So there was mail and there was phone. That's all we had. Well, then we added in email, we added in texting. Now we have Messenger, we have Zooms, we have the one I didn't talk about yet is we have three-way messages with an authority party, like an upline or a crossline, or maybe if you're, insurance, it might be the owner of the brokerage or whatever. It's a third party edifier. That's actually way number 10. And that, you can see now why in the marketing we've got a couple channels that we can be really good at, but we have to have these things in place. And it seems like a lot, but most of these things can be automated, at least the first touches, and you wait for people to um, respond and then you pick up their is like you get them to raise their hand, but still even outside of the automations, as we like to call them, the automations are only as good as that initial, getting them converting, right? You can have people come back and then you got to like speak to them and then you got to have closing skill. But the we always say in this business, I've been saying this for 20 years, income follows personal growth and skill, right? The more we grow, the better we get. I made 5,000 phone calls before I started getting good at closing on the phone. And I just kept dialing and dialing and dialing and dialing and practicing and dialing and dialing and listening to my calls and crying, you know, and those leads, this was back before ads. Like I was buying these leads, and those leads cost like 20 years ago cost the cheap ass 30-day aged leads were still $1. They were still $1, and I bought leads that were $12. I bought leads that were $5, and none of them I closed. I'll tell you that, 5,000 dials. So now to really, get the momentum, you have to do this consistently for a while. Like I'm doing right now a challenge with my clients and myself of 30 days minimal of like doing Instagram reels. And, with Instagram, here's another example. It's just like this. You have to post every day for 90 days without any expectation of going viral at all. Like you just have to keep going and going every day with zero success. And with like this, for somebody's pipeline to fill, it takes, whether you're online or offline building, it takes at least 6 months to fill your pipeline with enough prospects where you're consistently nurturing every day, every week to really start seeing a conversion. Okay. And that's how we built offline. When I was first starting my business in 2001, it was exactly that. We were uh I hit the ground going, and it I started my business in May of 2001. I really started building in like October 2001. October, November, December, January, February, March, April. 7 months later, my volume was $30,000 in sales that month. And it was because I was going every week and presenting 2 to 3 people a week, going to little vendor events and chamber of commerce mixers and all this stuff. And this was like 2001, doing that. And then when Monty and I moved to North Dakota to be with Monty. We were grinding it out offline. This is before I cracked the internet stuff. We were presenting and getting out in the community like 4 to 5 times a week. Plus, it was two of us. It took a year and a half to catch momentum in Fargo, North Dakota. A year and a half of doing the filling of the pipeline, the nurturing, the following up, the emails. We didn't have texting, broadcasting in mass yet. We didn't really have the ads, but we had like Messenger where we could message people, leave voice drops, send videos to people. I did postcards. I would send postcard mailers. It was one of the main ways I ran ads. I'd buy lists and I would mail postcards. So mail is kind of on here in a weird way. I would say I'll put an M in a box. I will tell you, if I've thought about it, even creating a newsletter for this that was a piece of print, right? Something people could have in their hand and read and learn and have a little newsletter subscription. So we're just in a different time because there's just so much that people are coming off. And the people always are asking themselves, because they all have problems, your prospects, and you are solving that problem, is how can she help me? Or how can he help me? And is this the right person? Do I like this person? Do I trust this person? One of the phrases that is being kind of like, yes, sizzle cards. Yes, sizzle cards, Dolores, and sizzle calls. Oh my God. Hey, you guys, we're having a sizzle call tonight, And then like they'd record it, and then there'd be like the sizzle recording that everybody could dial and listen to a voice drop, right? Oh my God. The phone book. Oh God. There's so many good things and ads for those that have been around a long time. But we have to stand out to these people. And one of the key things is that, I'm hearing it more and more. It's, we really need to be focused on money over time and not money. We all want money immediately, but we really have to go money over time, and we have to be um, putting a plan together, being consistent. And I think one other thing that I will say that I could tell you is absolutely true. Um, to, have the right marketing position is very important, understanding the trends of like what's working and what are people really looking at and what do they really want, but also to make sure that you're bringing enough energy to all of your follow-ups. Like, are these things flat as pancakes? Are these written in a way that, well, we kind of didn't talk about the one. This one here, are they written in a way that is exciting and engaging to people? I wrote a text the other day, and you guys might have gotten it. Let me clear this thing. I wrote a text the other day that um, I got a huge response from, that people wanted more information about something. And it was written like, hey, I just finished this thing and I thought you might really love it. Do you want it? And it was really casual. And the problem is that I find is that when people are doing their nurturing, they sound like a robot or a salesperson. And that's a really big problem. I had a client, I think it was Michelle. She's somebody that I work with long term, and it was so funny. It was a couple weeks ago. She says, Jen, my ads are going super good, but I can't get anybody to respond to my texts. I said, well, let me see your text. And she opened it up, and I looked at it and I said, no offense, Michelle, I wouldn't reply to this either. So I said, you sound like it's so blah. It sounds salesy and canned and scripted, and it's really like we got to zhuzh it up a little bit. So we rewrote it, and then she's like, "Well, now I'm getting all these responses." The words were not. It was like it was not engaging. It was sounded very mechanical. And I said, "Would you respond to that if you got that?" And she's like, no, it's really cute. But that we get serious, right? We want it to be perfect. We want to say the right words, And what's fun about advertising and marketing is it's a game and it always changes. And we have to experiment and we got to be bold enough to do that. And we send out messages or we do ads or there's things that we start to add into our stuff and we make a note. How did that affect our how did that affect our overall response and conversion and conversations and then enrollments? There's this part of this, but then there's the actual speaking to people. There's something I'm kicking around doing, and I'll announce it in the next, I don't even know when we're going to do it, maybe this month. We're thinking about doing some support on closing and doing that. I love, boy, my glasses. I got two. These are like the blind people computer glasses, and these are my regular ones. I'm looking at these going, ooh, no wonder why I couldn't see out of that last night. Um, Part of the issue that we have is, like I said, there's three master skills, and there's ads. Acquiring the prospect is really the thing. Then the second thing is we got to be able to close or get them enrolled or buying or whatever the thing is you do. And then we got to retain them. That's a whole nother project. I haven't taught that in a long time because I'm so focused on helping people getting the beginning part. When I started coaching, I'd been in the industry a long time. I thought, well, there's all these great coaches in my industry in network marketing. We have Eric Worre, we had Danny Johnson, we got like Sarah Robbins, we got all these wonderful people, all these gurus that are teaching team building and all this crap. I thought, well, I'm going to do something that they need. I'm going to teach them how to run ads because if they don't have prospects, nothing that these other gurus are saying are going to make any difference, right? If you don't have prospects, you can't apply leadership, right? You just got no prospects. So I started teaching the ads to people, like help if I could just get all of you prospects, you'd be good. And then I found out that wasn't true because then people needed to learn how to close those prospects. I was like, doesn't everybody have scripts from their company or their upline? Doesn't everybody have scripts? I found out that's a hard no. And then I learned that most companies don't have great presentations in the network marketing space. And then we have that's a whole nother topic. And then we had the last topic is launching and retaining, because especially if you're in a residual passive income business, you don't make long-term coconut, sipping out of coconut money if you're only selling to people one time. I still get paid on the company that I built 20 some years ago because I still retain those people. 24 years later, they're still buying. And the most expensive prospects were the one and dones. And retaining is a whole different thing. I've not really gotten into that in my coaching because I'm like I can't do it all. But I'm thinking about working on more in depth on the closing because that seems to be it's truly the biggest hurdle even over getting prospects. Who here has struggles with closing? Drop in the chat here. Sizzle cards, Dolores. I'm still cracking up about that. Sizzle cards and sizzle calls. We'd be putting in the coffee shop those flyers. People could grab a tab off of those. I did it. I did everything. So a lot of you are having a challenge with closing. Drop them at the gas station. Yeah. I would go to Barnes and Noble and Borders bookstore and I'd put the bookmarks in for my company. Oh, I did everything. I did everything. We did the bookmarks. We just did it all. Um, yeah. Don't be afraid to sound stupid or look silly. Yeah, it's for sure. So I'm thinking about something and I'm gonna see what happens. I don't know. I don't want to open my mouth too much, but I've been kicking it around a long time, really working with people on closing. And I do have materials that I are not publicly for sale that are around this. And I think it's something in itself. That's not the purpose of this training was to talk about that, but it's in my brain this week. And I was actually talking to my operations gentleman, and I said, I really think I want to get this up and available for sale because I think it's one of the most important things that I can help people with. And we'll see what happens. Um, yes, you've been using the scripts, but it's also then the practice, and having a third party. So here it goes back to, um, yeah, is helping, right, Deborah? 100%. Getting the lead is one thing. And like I said, the next master skill is like, now what do? You gotta enroll them. And then there's the third one, which is keep them or get them going in business. Like they're like, a business person, then you got to get them launched. And then if they're like a prospect for product, then you got to keep them going and using your product and maybe referring people to you. And so I'm like, that's a whole can of worms, working on that. But even the closing skill, I mean, I used to have, if you guys remember this, where we'd have prospecting and recruiting boot camps where we would practice the conversations and everything. And I would go to those and um, I would role play in the hot seat and try to work on it. And man, I sucked. I did. I was so bad. I turned into a weirdo robot when I got on the phone with a prospect off of an ad. And it took a long time. Running your own ads and getting your own prospects responding to your ads, it's way higher engagement, but you still have that next step of getting them on the phone or showing up to a Zoom. Like if you get people that blow you off and they're not responding, we always like what happened that did that? There's a reason why that happened. Prospects that blow you off, they feel like they're going to be sold. So, if they ghost you on the follow-up or they're not responding, they think they're going to be sold. So, anyways, I'm totally rabbit hole right now on that one, but I'm kicking it around. So keep your ears and eyes peeled on that one because I feel like we can get everybody the leads. That to me, hands down, is easy. Is running the ads and putting in all the automations to do the 7 nurture plus. As you know, it's more than 7 pieces because there's variance in different businesses, but there's at least 7 steps to nurturing. But the thing that I learned is that once people get the leads engaging with them, then they fell on their noses. And I'm like, oh, there's another opportunity to help people. And I think it's one of the most important things I can help with. So we'll see what happens. Like I'm trying to figure out like how can I do that or leverage, for that. So we'll see what happens. Before I wrap up here, I know some of you are messaging me here to if you want to talk to us about your ads and you're thinking it's time to get some ads going and you have not already done your onboarding call with us, and you want to talk about like how do you do this? Do you have the right budget to do it? You need a budget to run ads. Facebook does want you to pay them. Like it's kind of one of those things. But like I said, compared to how we print did it in old days in print, it's a heck of a lot cheaper and a lot less risk. We can test an ad on $5 a day versus even a crappy print ad is $400 a week, and you don't know if it's good till you run it at least 7 times. So if you wanted to chat with us and you haven't done that already to see if we can help you with your ads, and where you're at with your business, I dropped the link in the chat because we I can only do so much even on these Wednesdays. I can't get my hands in on your accounts and help you with the copywriting and really go at that. And like I said, bad ads are more expensive than even learning how to do them. So getting some of that strategic training or guidance or, just jump and do a call with us if you haven't done already. If you're in the Skool community, which you are, because it's pretty much invite only here, this is not a public call. It's only for my Skool folks. And, we do the onboarding call to help you figure out like where are you at, what do you need to do next? So there's that. I've got a topic for next week. I think I was going to do a Facebook ads update call because, and again, not everybody's seen these changes in their ads manager yet, but I'm seeing it a lot. And those tricky settings are kicking my ass, let alone people that don't know what's going on. Like it's just like, I'm telling you, yeah, Deborah, it's like there's settings under settings under settings now that we have to dig super deep and like it's not even obvious. I mean, like, I'm just like, what are they doing? And you got to remember one thing that Facebook is built for e-commerce. It's not built for coaches, network marketers, realtors, insurance agents, people like it's made for e-com. So that all of the mechanics behind it is for e-commerce. And that is what it's built for. So that's why we still need to get in there and manually change a lot of the settings or turn them off. So I might do that next week if you think that's helpful. You can drop in the chat if you think that'd be helpful. I know, or some people already said that it would be great. So that is there's one guarantee. Facebook is always gonna be changing, So there's that. It's always the fact. So we are here. I always think in my, sometimes I think, well, I'm gonna wrap up early because I got a standing appointment at 10 o'clock, and here we go. It is another hour talking about this. But the recording will be in the Skool community over there. And if you haven't gotten into those, let me just show you where they're at because there's a training every week. I might start archiving them after let me go into the classroom. I might start archiving them. I'm not sure. Or I might start moving them into like my YouTube channel or something. I'm not sure yet. But live recording trainings are right here. So this is here. That'll be at the top. As you can see, Facebook shutdowns and restrictions is here. This one will be up here usually between now and the weekend. Sometime I get it up. I get it up before the next meeting, but sometimes it's fast. Sometimes it takes a few days because it takes a long time to render. But they're all here. The ones since I started the very first one in January, there's one every week. Like I said, I might start to archive these or put them somewhere else. So I would get in here and start going at it. And next week, like I said, I'm probably going to do Facebook's updates. That's all I have to say, shaking my head. So I hope all of you have a wonderful rest of your week. Enjoy your day. We are still a little bit cold. We're supposed to get up in the 60s sometime soon. And I don't know what's going on. There was promises made and not kept. So we're still in the 40s, being able to do that. So 91, Ruth. Oh my gosh. My face would be peeling off. So everybody, thank you so much for coming. I very much enjoyed having all of you. Yeah, Alabama, we're not far off you. We're at 40. We're here at 40. So we're here, Arizona, Southern Arizona, cooking, Florida. Deborah, where are you at? What temp are you at, Deborah? I'm just curious. Because Florida's not always warm, 68. There you go. My friends live in Florida. They said they were at 80 the other day, something like that. So, anyways, well, have a great rest of your day. I gotta jump to my next appointment so I can get my butt kicked from by some mentors and get my life in order. I'm just kidding. No, we brainstorm, my staff. So I gotta jump on a meeting, but I'll see you all next Wednesday. If you haven't done your call, go ahead and do so, and we'll see you on Wednesday or in the school. Bye, everybody.